we live? Are we
I think
live?
we're live. I think we're live. I might even put the intro video. We'll just
You know what?
do it.
Let's see. Hold on. Let's test this out. Oh, we are live. I can see us.
Are
Hi,
we live?
everybody who's watched
Okay,
us.
huge.
Who has watched? If you caught us testing out whether or not we were live.
Oh yeah, we're all
We
live.
are
Wait, hold on.
indeed
Let's see.
live.
Let's just try since we have like probably no viewers right now. Let's just try.
Yeah. Well, we might.
Look at
Oh,
the
yeah.
count.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Pretend like this didn't happen, or we're not
Exactly.
talking right now.
Yeah, y'all can't hear us. I see the countdown on screen. That's pretty cool.
Wait, can they hear?
I think they can definitely hear. Yeah. It's all right. You know, it's a cool little countdown. I can't see like the audience count or anything, I feel like, but
Tuning into the clown show. Here we go.
All right, what is going on, Chiefs Kingdom? Welcome back to another episode of The Kingdom Says. I am your host. As always, tonight, Garrett Williams. I am joined by two familiar faces. We've got Mr. Thomas Pike on the top right of the screen. How are we doing tonight, Tom?
Hey, I am good. I am still recovering from our to peel back the curtain because we have never been. I can't see. Hold on, my sign is not. There we go. The real star of the show. We are not attempting to be any more smooth than we are. We were testing out going live on this new platform, this new stream service, and yeah, here we are. So we're excited. I'm excited to be here. Excited to be live. Excited to talk about my favorite part of football. So, oh look, we do. James is here in the comments. What's up, James?
We got one person commenting. Yeah, hi James. Hi, nice to see you. Yeah,
welcome to the
welcome
show.
to the Thunder Show. Yeah, it's gonna be a great night. Great night. Also joining us, Mr. Randy Ellenberger at Chief in the North. How we doing tonight, Randy?
I'm doing awesome, man. It is great to be back on with y'all and see your beautiful smiling faces, and excited to, as Tom is, to get into our favorite part of the off season with free agency and gearing up for the draft. So yeah, very, very excited to get this part of the season rolling along and chat some ball with y'all. So
yeah, it's gonna be it's a fun little off season that I have here. As I'm just trying to randomly set up stuff on my phone. We're having a great tonight. This is a great night.
Yeah, listen, it's Friday night.
Friday night, we're just chilling. You know, we're having a good time here. With
Kyle
all
isn't here,
our beautiful
and
friends.
he's
Yeah,
really
no Kyle tonight. Technical difficulties from Kyle's standpoint. So we'll be missing him tonight. But we've got some Chiefs things to talk about for sure. We've got some free agent signings that have happened since the last time we've talked to you guys, which has been like a week and a half. Which we apologize. You know, it's a little bit busy around these parts, especially in the Kingdom Says world. It's just life and busy off season and all that stuff. It takes a little bit of time away, but I'll tell you what, we are here tonight to have a good time. We're gonna have a great time tonight talking about everything under the sun, free agent signings, draft talk. We're gonna do a mock draft later on tonight, which is gonna be sweet.
Sure.
So yeah, it's gonna be a good night. Appreciate you all for joining us. Let's just get into it, fellas. Yeah. Should we get into it? There's been a couple free agent signings since the last time we talked, like I mentioned. So we're gonna hit some of the big ones that, all of them are big ones. You know, obviously all of them are great additions to the team. But we'll dive into a little bit of the biggest ones so far. Probably the biggest notable new addition to the Chiefs would be Christian Fulton, the cornerback who was previously with the Chargers. We signed him to a 2-year, $20 million deal, $15 million guaranteed. So that's a pretty decent deal for a guy coming off a really good year last year in LA. Tom, I know you were a big fan of this signing, a guy who can come in and potentially compete for that CB2 role. He's been a true boundary guy basically his entire career, an outside corner, which is a great addition because we don't have a ton of that in Kansas City at the moment. What do you think of the signing?
Yeah, so I mean, one, I think you get a guy who's got some experience. He's got a really high pedigree in terms of, he was a second-round pick, but he was a guy who, at LSU was a pretty big name when he was in college. Had some really big moments, And I think, as a draft prospect, he was kind of seen as there were concerns about him being kind of, I don't want to say soft, but maybe more finesse in his play style. Since he's been in the league, I think, I'm playing with the Titans, playing with the Chargers. He's really found a role. I think he's improved as a tackler, which, again, that's like the number one thing for Steve Spagnuolo and Dave Merritt and those guys. You got to be able to tackle in that secondary. And he is, I think that if you remember the play last year when they dealt with injuries in that room, it is just, yeah, it was imperative that they added a body there to somebody who can play and hold up on the outside. He's not going to be, your cornerback one, shut down the best receiver, but he's going to match up pretty well with just about any other, secondary wide receiver, the X receiver in most offenses. So, also competition for Jalen Watson. Cornerback is a position where you can never have too many players at. And as we get to, the other reality is we're getting closer to some of these young guys and their contracts coming up. It might be, it might be vital for the roster construction to have some of the guys in house to be leveraged in negotiations, but also if we need to move off one of those guys. Hey, look, Corey's in the comments. Corey, good to see you, my friend, the artist chief. I'm sorry, this is hard. Live for me and my ADHD. What's up, G-Pick? This is dangerous. This is dangerous for me in the ADHD, but we are out here. But yeah, I'm excited for the Fulton signing. I think it raises the floor of that room and safeguards us against a lot of some of those issues they struggled with last year when people got hurt.
Yeah, pretty good. It's definitely a fun signing. Randy, any comments on Christian Fulton?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a great depth. It's a great depth piece. The dude has some ability. We were talking a little bit, pre-show about some of these guys, and I think it does. It adds depth. It also allows Trent to slide back into the slot where he's most effective at an All-Pro level.
Yeah.
As Tom was mentioning, when he was coming in, he's a little bit more of a finesse type guy, but most corners they're not super physical to begin with. But my only thing is, how many games can we count on? Because he's got a little bit of an injury history. Is he going to miss 2 to 4 games every year? That's kind of been his MO. But last year he seemed to play relatively healthy throughout the season, so had a great year. I'm excited. There's going to be some legit competition between Jalen and Christian and Josh Williams as well. So, and that allows us to not have to heavily rely on Najee Johnson so much, where he can kind of be back in that CB4 in his dime sub package and be a core special teamer, which is kind of that's where he belongs. If we're counting on Najee to play serious snaps as a starter, we're hurting. So, but yeah, it's a great signing. I dig it. It should be good.
Yeah, definitely a good addition to the CB room to raise the floor of the entire room. And like you said, with the contracts that are coming up, I mean, you have the entire 2022 draft class is going to be coming up here next year. So, you hopefully pay Trent, but then you'll have Joshua Williams and Jalen Watson potentially walk in, and Najee and all those guys. So definitely going to be a little bit of turnover potentially in the DB room the next few years. So it's good to see. Just a good little 2-year addition, get him to try out and see how he fits. It seems like at least the last year in LA, he had a lot of good film. He seemed like a very willing tackler, which is something that Spags is going to love. That's probably part of the allure of him. But really fun signing. The best part is that it could potentially allow Trent to go back inside, which is where he is the most deadly at. And if you can have 2 true boundary outside corners in Jalen Watson and Christian Fulton, I think that's a good room. It doesn't have to. You don't have to necessarily jump at a DB prospect super early in the draft this year, which has been a thought, definitely a consideration. So that's a pretty big signing. A couple other notable outside signings. The Chiefs signed Jerry Tillery, another former Charger. Also with the Vikings last year, I believe, and along with the Rams he's been with. Former first-round pick out of Notre Dame, defensive lineman. Kind of had an up and down career so far in the league. He was a really highly touted defensive line prospect out of Notre Dame back in the day. This is 2019 first-round pick or something like that. He was kind of been up and down. Definitely has a good has put together some good film. Also has bounced around for a reason, which is kind of inevitable with some of these first-round picks, but. Reclamation project, which first round reclamation project, which Brett Veach always is a fan of. And once again, with the couple of D-line departures that we've seen from the Chiefs, losing Derek Nottie and Tershawn Wharton, got to get some more bodies in there for sure. So we'll see. Tom, what do you think of Tillery and how he might fit in on the D-line?
Yeah, I mean, I think that he was in. Gosh, it takes me back because he was in, I think if I remember right, he was in that same draft class. I think it was with Charles Omenihu, but there were a lot of people who liked Tillery, and I was not as big of a fan. I felt like he was a very a very finesse player, and expecting someone to come into that Chargers organization as it was when he was drafted, and the coaching turnover and those types of things, I think it's hard to have high expectations. I know the Chiefs did a lot of pre-draft work on him that year. I think he has been able to at least carve out a role as like a rotational depth kind of piece. I would caution anybody with huge expectations beyond that. I think that's what it is. It's, hey, there are a lot of bodies leave. This is a guy who has some upside as a younger player. Again, that strong pedigree, has some athletic traits that you like, but has not, again, put it together in a really significant way in the league yet. And I think it would be a little bit of a surprise, to see that happen, to see him. I mean, he could put up some good numbers playing next to Chris Jones. Like that's
Chris Jones got Joel Cullen coaching him now,
Yeah. Yep. But I would try to keep expectations realistic here and, keep it, as a role player, as a rotational piece, that kind of thing. So.
Right, yeah, definitely a little bit more of a rotational piece. Randy, also, of course, bringing back Charles Omenihu that the Chiefs just signed last night as of us recording this. So you have two re-additions or two additions to the D-line room, which was already looking a little depleted. How do you think bringing Omenihu back affects what Jerry Tillery's role will be and how the D-line looks overall right now?
It's the Tillery edition, like Tom says, a great rotational, adding depth. He's got some ability, but if for some odd reason he's just never really seemed to put it all together. Definitely more of a finesse player than a power guy. I mean, especially he's a big dude. He's 6'7", shy of 300 pounds, but has never really shown that ability to like hold his own and kind of take over the inside. But it's a great piece to add. He's going to be a great rotational guy. The more quality bodies you can have on the defensive line to constantly rotate through and keep fresh bodies in there to put constant pressure on opposing offenses and quarterbacks is I mean, that's exactly what you need. Bringing Omenihu back, I think is huge. I was super pumped to see him come back. It's about a 1 year, $7 million deal.
Up to $7 million.
Up to $7 million, which I think is important. So
I mean, what I think is going to be great is that we will finally be able to see Omenihu from start to finish in a season. The first year he's with us, he had the suspension. Then he tears his ACL. He missed how many games this year coming back and was played okay. But you could definitely tell that the strength and the explosiveness and maybe the trust in the knee just wasn't quite there yet. So I think with a full off season of training, getting his legs completely back underneath him and being able to come in and go from week one, I think is going to be huge. our edge, our defensive ends. I mean, shy of Karloftis, I think we have a kind of revolving door of some really good role players. We still with Dana and O'Menahue and Malik Herring and FAU still is still trying to develop into something. So there's kind of a rotating door of guys on the other side from Furious George there, but I mean it's I think it was a key piece to really allow us to, kind of like we were talking a little bit pre-show too, is we've pretty much positioned ourselves to go best player available now with that 31st pick, and then there really should be legitimately 5 to 6 quality dudes at any position at that point that could really come in and help us out. So I think adding Tillery and O'Menahue was very, very crucial for allowing us that freedom towards the end of the first round there.
Yeah, I agree. I think they're both definitely make the D-line room a lot more tolerable at this point in the offseason. Makes it more easy to swallow as far as what it might look like come opening day, which is many, many months away still, and we have no idea what can go on from then. But not so bad so far. Not so bad of a look. Couple other notable re-signings. We re-signed Juju Smith-Schuster, which good to see. Juju coming back, obviously very familiar with the offense, has good chemistry with Pat. He's older. He's an older vet. He's another good. We don't have many vets in that room right now at this point.
What's he 28 now?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah,
for some odd reason, he still feels like that old hat.
Right. Yeah, it seems like he's been around just
like
forever.
34 years old or something like that. But he's not even 30 yet. He's just
and he's had some injury issues, so he might definitely be a little bit slower than he used to be. But definitely a good safety blanket for Pat. If you keep him in that wide receiver 4/5 role, he's perfect. He doesn't have to do anything more than that.
He does all the little things.
Yeah, I mean he's a good.
He gets guys lined up in the right spots. He's at the not pick plays or rub routes. He's pretty good at being savvy in that type of area. So
yeah, he does wide receiver stuff really good, which is kind of a little hard to find these days, especially on the Chiefs wide receiver room. It seems like there's a lot of athletes and a lot of this, that, and the other, but as far as guys who can actually play the wide receiver position, he's pretty good at it. So glad to see him back. Also re-signing Kareem Hunt, another notable guy, another vet who he's only going to be 30 going into this year, I believe. So another running back in that room adds to the floor. I think a lot of Chiefs fans would still like to see another running back addition through the draft. There's a lot of really good running backs in this class, and there's a lot of really good young legs out there that could add some explosiveness to this room. But adding Kareem back, I mean, that's a good, reliable guy that once again knows the offense.
This running back class is loaded, and it's going to be. We're going to be able to find a guy later in those mid rounds that'll be a legit contributor type kid. It's going to be fun to see what they come away with.
Oh yeah.
So that's good. And last big new signing, new backup quarterback in Kansas City. We've got Gardner Minshew coming on just a 1-year deal, as the Chiefs continue their rotation of backup quarterbacks that they just seem to spin a wheel and whoever lands on, boom, just sign him for a 1-year deal. We saw it with Carson Wentz. We saw it with Blaine Gabbert. Obviously, the GOAT Chad Henne was the best of them so far. But Gardner Minshew, he just started for the Raiders a couple games last year. He was been around a couple teams now. He was with the Colts, with the Jaguars for a long time. Definitely a lot of starting experience, and it seems like he might embrace the Kansas City culture pretty well as far as his opening press conference, if that's any indication.
He is an interesting cat, man.
He is. Yeah, it's going to be fun to follow him throughout this year, and
I'm all about it. I think
he's behind the scenes stuff and whatnot from him.
Yeah, he's a beautiful blend of Uncle Rico and Joe Dirt.
Yeah, that's a pretty good way to describe him.
In the best way possible. That is not an insult. Those are American icons you're talking about there, Randy.
I know, man. It's he's been perfectly molded for this position.
Yeah, so that's basically the re-signings and the additions that have been made since the last time we talked to you guys. Obviously, the Chiefs have been having a decent offseason so far. I don't know you guys' opinions on it so far, but it seems like they've addressed at least one position of need at every spot, for better or for worse, getting at least more talent in those rooms. So that's at least good to see. They've covered most of the areas that you wanted them to see. You just kind of go into the draft with BPA as the main goal.
Right.
Yeah. Well, I said this. Oh, go ahead, Randy.
I was just gonna say, for our kind of a giving our free agency or our offseason kind of a grade so far, I think we're in that solid B minus. Have we made any super splashy moves? No. I think the splashiest moves we've made are re-signing our own guys, and I honestly think those are the best free agents. Honestly, they've been in your system. They know the place. They know the building. They know the coaches. They know the players. A lot less adjustment for those other guys coming in from different organizations, but we've added a lot of quality depth. We've added a lot of quality competition in specific areas. So has it been splashy? No. Has it been solid? Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. One, I think if we go back a couple weeks, and we talked about this draft class, and Randy, I'm excited to get into the mock draft and get a chance to talk more. To pull back the curtain even further. Randy and I are kind of the draft guys around here. Garrett gets
I dabble, I'll
on the
come
wide
in and
receivers.
I'll come in and
Randy-
tell them if they're right or wrong about their wide receiver takes, and that's about it.
Yeah, you can tell Randy and I were not built to play wide receiver, and apparently I'm not built to evaluate it. Apparently, so I would say I'm excited to get into it, but I talked about this a couple weeks ago. This draft class not as strong as some of the others, and we're kind of at that wave where NIL has kept some younger guys in school and in the transfer portal. We're feeling that a little bit this year. I think a little bit more than last year, especially, and being in a position as a team, like one, the Chiefs had a really good season last year, as stressful as it was. They lost one game with their starters playing, minus the Super Bowl. That's, again, perspective, right? You lose the one that matters, but that matters the most. But this roster is really good, and you've added pieces. That's why I'm excited about the Fulton addition. That's why I'm excited. And yes, we lost some of those interior defensive line guys, and that's, I think, the biggest spot, but you raise the floor on everything else. You keep everything else safe, right? Your left tackle position, I think you've raised the floor a little bit about that. We talked about that addition a couple weeks ago. Now you go into this draft and you don't need to get a left tackle. You would like to, but you don't need to. You would like to add some interior defensive linemen, but you don't need to on day one, right? You have some bodies there who can run. It wouldn't surprise me if the other thing I'll say is the Chiefs still have a little bit of money to spend right now.
A little bit, yeah.
Even the Omenihu deal, I think, is huge because, again, you would like to add a pass rusher. You don't have to add a pass rusher. I would expect them to be players in the market for the kind of the post-draft free agency, which we know can be a big deal for teams and for players. I mean, again, wasn't that long ago that the Chiefs were trying to bring in Tyrann Mathieu a year before he actually got here, but they didn't have the money to do it, right? And so I think Brett Veach has learned that lesson and wants to have a little bit of spending money once the draft settles, and if not, you can always take that money and use it, on that Trey Smith extension, use it on getting some of those other deals done early. But yeah, I think that the roster's in a really safe place to continue to be really competitive, and also bringing back Hollywood, bringing back those guys, that wide receiver room that we didn't get to see as they had built and crafted it, I think is also huge. So puts us in a really good position for the draft, which I know is what we're excited about.
We sure are. Yeah, that's gonna be some fun talk, and we still have a month and about a month and a week so far, like 5 weeks, I guess, until the NFL draft. You could say
35 days.
Okay, yeah, so it's coming up sooner than you think. So, yeah, we're gonna be definitely diving into a lot. We're gonna start off today with just getting our feet wet a little bit. We're gonna do a little bit of a mock draft here. We're gonna try our guy Tom. Oh, I'm highlighted. That's not good. Nope, that's also still not the one. Hold on, let's see.
Here we are.
Let's see. Hold on, ready? Here we go. Boom.
There it is.
That's the main screen now. Okay.
Yeah.
Courtesy of our guy Tom here, we're sharing his screen. We're going to dive into a little bit of a mock draft. This is the PFF mock draft, Tom.
Yes. So I'm a little miffed right now because I am actually a PFF Plus subscriber. So I was hoping to be able to give you guys some more feedback, but for whatever reason, it's not recognizing that I am a subscriber. So I'm going to go
log in.
fight the goes. Do what?
Did you log in, or you logged into your
I
account?
did log in. I'm logged in over here. I am.
Oh, that's great.
Just sign out. Yeah, they took my money, but didn't give me my service. It's okay. After this podcast is over, I'm going to drive to PFF. No, I'm kidding. That was a joke for legal reasons.
Legal reasons. That was
PFF and I are cool. We're cool. I do like their mock draft simulator. I do use a lot of the NFL mock draft simulator. Shout out to them. But they're currently like doing this weird thing where sometimes like the Giants get to that third pick and they just take whatever quarterback. So sometimes you see like Jalen Milroe, or I saw Kyle McCord go there earlier. And if Kyle McCord goes number 3 overall to the Giants, I will get a picture of Garrett's head tattooed on the top of my bald head. That is how confident I am that is not going to happen.
Yeah, that sounds about right. Yeah. Maybe Jackson Dart. Maybe my guy Jackson Dart, but definitely not Kyle McCord.
Yeah.
We can talk about Jackson Dart. QB2? Anyways, we're going to jump into
the dog when he was at USC. I tell you what, he was a dog when he was at USC, and Lincoln Riley didn't want him.
Listen, Jackson Dart is a great name for a quarterback, too.
That's what I'm saying, bro. That's coming out. It was like, bro, how do you not love the kid? He's throwing darts. His name's Jackson Dart. Like, come on.
It's perfect. All right, let's jump in here, and we'll kind of pause after the first 10 picks or so. Just kind of look at the board as it's shaping up. Again, these are all simulators, different scenarios. Sometimes they're pretty like, oh, yeah, I can see that happening. Sometimes you're like, no, never.
Yeah.
So let's go. Let's hit the start button. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Oh, hold on 1 second. Okay.
Made to 12. All right.
We got to 12. So Cam Ward going number 1. Travis Hunter going number 2. That seems pretty chalk. Armand Membu, who I know a lot of people in the kingdom love because he's a Tiger.
Yeah, Mizzou guy.
He's going high, folks. Let's not hold our breath. Abdul Carter, Mason Graham. Now, Mason Graham's an interesting one because he's a good football player, kind of not the buzz around the combine was he doesn't look like a football player, but he plays like a football player. So we could see him slip. I could see it happening.
That's what everyone said about Braden Fisk last year, too.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, I'm not going to talk them out of making a mistake. Let them fall. Gentry the Raiders, that's been something that's gained a lot of steam lately.
That would make me so mad because I really like Ashton Genty, and I would like to cheer for him in his NFL career.
Yeah.
But I can't do that.
Yeah. Will Campbell with the Jets, that makes some sense. Shamar Stewart, who was the athletic darling of the combine, finding himself in the top 10. Tyler Warren to the Saints at 9 is an interesting one, but
I've heard a lot of talks that he's the best pass catcher in the draft.
He's a really good dynamic player.
Yeah.
I don't disagree with it because
maybe.
Yeah. Nick Emanuare,
combine freak.
He earned himself a lot of money at the combine as well.
That kid is built like the prototypical safety, man. Like his body size, speed, length, athleticism is like this.
Yeah, he's a dog.
Yeah. I'm a big Michael Williams guy, athletic freak, but needs to put together. Mike Green out of Marshall, a lot of fun. Not really a scheme fit for Kansas City, but he'll go pretty high. So
what was Mike Green? Is he a 3-4? Is he an outside guy? I've seen his name land a couple times.
Rusher, I would definitely say probably going to be better in that stand-up role.
Yeah. I've seen his name fall to Chiefs just a couple times, and I don't know about him. You know.
I would be surprised. He's pretty light for.
Yeah.
I'd be really, really surprised if he made it that far, but he's not a great scheme fit for us. So.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Yeah. So just rolling through it here, we have our first wide receiver off the board. I know Travis Hunter can play both, but Tet McMillan, cornerback Will Johnson out of Michigan, Jalen Walker, linebacker / pass rusher out of Georgia to the Falcons. Jahad Campbell, that's a guy that this is a perfect example of what I mean when you're talking about bringing back your guys and not having to force your hand. Jahad Campbell's a guy that like the Chiefs would have to take a long look at if they didn't bring Nick Bolton back. right? But they did. Regardless of what you feel about that, they have that spot covered.
Yeah.
Jahdae Barron, who I think is a little underrated here, goes to the Bengals. I really like Barron. He's a very, very Trent McDuffie-esque in his play style.
Yeah.
Like that.
Donovan Azaraku, which is a Seattle Seahawks pick if there ever was one.
Sounds like a Seattle Seahawks.
Yeah.
Pass rusher. The Buccaneers get a Chris Godwin clone and Emeka Egbuka. Kenneth Grant, the other Michigan defensive tackle. This one makes me sad. Josh Simmons, the Ohio State tackle. Probably if you're thinking if you want the Chiefs to draft a franchise tackle, like left tackle in round 1, this is the best bet I think you have. Like, I know he's coming off an injury. That's the only reason he's reasonable to be within reach. But
if you listen to Kyle and his affinity for arm length, and Chiefs not drafting, what do you have? 33.5-inch arms or something like that? He's 6'4",
Yeah.
coming off that patellar injury, which
it's a tough one.
That's a tough one to come back from. But without that injury, I think he is O-tackle number 1 in this group.
I agree with that. So that's why I'm like, again, if the medicals check out and he's there in the late 20s, maybe you let that move up. But I think in this case, 21 is too rich for us. But maybe he slides, somewhere to
it's our mid-20s.
29, and we can jump right in front of the Bills.
Yeah,
as is tradition.
One jump, yeah.
I do like Malachi Starks, despite his bad testing at the Combine. We'll let this roll through. Just looking at a couple of other names, we are going to break our friend James's heart.
Yeah,
Luther
I know
Burden
James really wanted Luther Burden.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, James.
If Luther Burden is sitting there at 31, man, you got to run that card.
Yeah.
If he's sitting there at 29, I think we make a little call and jump the Bills.
Yep. So this, again, this
or
might
even
be,
just call the Bills. They might just give us the pick.
Yeah,
Right.
You look at this board, you go, okay, there might be a good reason. Like some of these players, Matthew Golden, Walter Nolan, these are a good chunk of players here.
That's some really good players that just went off the board right there. I'll tell you what.
So moving up a small amount, even though Marion Hampton, even if you're not a big running back in round 1 person, which I totally get, Hampton's a stud. I'm a big Hampton guy. But all those guys are gone. We're not pretending to know what Brett Veach is going to do because I'm not sure Brett Veach knows what he's going to do until he's doing it. So let's look at the guys left on the board.
Well, sure. I know that first guy is Randy's going to be all over.
Oh, yeah. Gray Zabel. Is he a tackle?
Gray Zabel can play any position on the offensive line. Because if you listen to his interviews, that's what he says. He's like, I'm not a tackle, I'm not a guard, I'm not a center, I'm an offensive lineman. Because he's literally played every position across the offensive line. And my Bison churn out offensive linemen. I mean, for the FCS level, there's nobody better at that. And can he play tackle? Sure. Is he going to be an elite guard, potentially center? Absolutely. I think Gray Zabel is the most versatile offensive lineman in this draft. And he's going to be a stud inside. And he assimilates his game to Joe Thuney because he is literally that guy.
Yeah, I was just going to say, Dan Jeremiah tweeted out comps, and he is literally basically the exact same size as Joe Thuney. 32-inch arms, 6'5", 312. Basically has Joe Thuney written him all over him. Yeah.
Love Gray Zabel. Love him.
So I will share with you I don't want this to happen, but I know the Chiefs have had him in for or have had a visit with him. Darius Alexander, he's like 96 years old. I know it says he's a senior here, but he's like a 6th or 5th year senior or whatever.
Good senior, yeah.
Yeah, he's
24. He'll be 25 by the season start. Yeah,
25 by the time the season starts. A little bit older. I just don't know if I would go that direction here. Another tackle that I know a lot of people have talked about, Josh Connerly Jr. from Oregon. What's your take on Connerly, Randy?
I mean, at this range, I could definitely see us doing it. He is more of a finesse type tackle, but he's definitely much better at pass protection than run blocking, which is fine because that's tackle. We got to protect Pat. I wouldn't hate the pick. I wouldn't necessarily love the pick either, but I could absolutely see it happening.
Yeah. Well, I have Connerly in a very similar scope of like very comparable to where I had Kingsley last year. So very similar. Like I wouldn't hate it, but you need it, and I think you could develop it. But I think again, developmental, not really what I want to take. So, is there any other positions, any other guys we want to highlight? I've got one. I'm gonna pound the table
Well,
here.
at the top of that board, Tom, I know Nick Skouerton. He's been.
Okay.
I've heard he's been. I heard he's a freak. I mean, I heard this guy is a franchise edge rusher for you for the next 10 years if you want him. Am I wrong?
Allegedly. So he came into to Texas A&M as a guy who was. They were really excited. He played at I think it was Purdue before, and I actually was watching him earlier today. Randy, while I look something up, do you have any thoughts on Nick Skouerton?
I didn't know much about him honestly until I was talking with Bryce Carter the other day, and he told me to dive in and watch him because he's big on him. So I went on and I watched in my very limited time so far this year. I did get in and I did watch some of his tape. He's explosive. Like he's got some pop and he's got some energy to him. He's got a good motor. The only thing I see with him being on the edge is I think he's a little stiff, especially when it comes on that speed rush type. Little stiff in the hips, not overly flexible. I think he's got to have a better plan in his head when it comes to his pass rush moves to having a counter to his first if it doesn't work, because he does pretty much rely on his athletic ability and his explosiveness to kind of just cause chaos. So he's a great disruptor. But so that's kind of like that's my skinny on him without having a ton of time and film watched on him. But
it's interesting.
He's an interesting player.
It says he's listed there at 6'4", 280, 285.
Yeah, that is not accurate.
I'm going to say he came in at the combine at 267, which is very interesting. Also doesn't look like he worked very much at the combine, but
yeah. So here, this is my take. Here's how I feel about Nick Skouerton, and here's how I think the Chiefs are going to feel about Nick Skouerton. If you watch him play, and then you go back and watch George Karlaftis play at Purdue, and this is not a helmet scouting thing, very, very similar players. Questions about bend, questions about overall athleticism in some sense, but powerful, can drive a guy back. The length was disappointing. There's some other things, like he's got some good moves. I think he could be a really good player, but I think his floor is solid. I would not be mad with Nick Skouerton at 31. I'm going to bring up a different player. I'm on the table, and I have the mouse, so I can pick what I want. Derek Harmon. Let's see. I just got to do a little bit more of a dive on him today. And again, he's a senior, but he's 21 years old. I'm sorry, he's a junior, right? And this is, I want to be very careful. But if you want to talk about a comparable athletic profile to a guy like Chris Jones, Derek Harmon is closer than most guys in this draft.
Wow.
6'4.5", 34 3/8 inch arms, ran a 4.95 40-yard dash. I don't know how he doesn't get a little bit more love than what he gets out here. I'm a big Derek.
1 year of production is why.
Yeah, I get that.
He's got the tools. He's got the build. He passes the eyeball test by anybody's measure. But 1 year of production.
Yeah.
Inconsistency. But I think getting into a room with Chris Jones and guys, like Menahu that can, teach him up a little bit and refine some things could be great for him. He's again, like there's a solid group of players that are going to be available at this point in the draft that we can literally go in any which direction. We could go offensive line. We could go D tackle. You could look at edge. I mean, one of Tom and I's favorite players, I think, can squeeze into the end of this last round. And I want you to go down and highlight Landon Jackson.
Yes. Oh, I was gonna say I love Landon Jackson.
Yep.
He had a really good
And his
combine.
story is incredible.
Yeah, his story is incredible. He's just one of those. He is a Spags prototype defensive end, like 6'7", 275, 280 pounds, with a motor and a mean streak, and he can play the run as well as he can the pass.
Yeah.
A lot of people's first thoughts or first images of Landon Jackson is that horrific little video of him back in the day,
way back in the day in high school, or whatever,
or going through bags and having the absolute worst form and technique I've ever seen.
Yeah, who was he? He was getting compared to some guy who went right before him, who was just a freak, right? And then
and what he's transformed his body and his game into in the last 2 seasons. I mean, he probably could have come out. He could have come out last year, and been a first 3-round pick, but he went back, and I think to have a guy like Landon Jackson opposite of George would be. I'm all for that.
Yeah. Well, and so I'm going to say this: 6'6", 264. If he wasn't in this, if we didn't have Shamar Stewart being absolutely Godzilla out here, I don't know. And again, I don't know how he didn't get more buzz. 4.68 40-yard dash.
Yeah, he was
40 and a half inch vertical jump. I mean, come on.
So he's my dark horse pick. I would love to see Landon Jackson at 31.
Yeah, I love him. Again, you talk about a guy who very. I don't want to say George Karlaftis-esque because I think he has more explosiveness to his game. But when you talk about that floor at that edge position, I see Jackson there. But I
think he's a bit more physical and he's a bit more explosive than George is. And George has turned himself into a hell of a player right now.
Yeah,
knocking George.
Yeah, I think George can have a big year. Yeah, we're very pro George. So here's my point, and then I'll defer to you guys. We'll take a quick vote. My vote is for Harmon, and here's why. I don't think you get another defensive tackle player of his caliber anywhere else in the draft right now. I think the gap between Nick Scourton and Landon Jackson, is not that steep compared to the gap between Derek Harmon and I know Alexander's here. Even that gap is bigger in my mind. But whoever the next TJ Sanders to Derek Harmon, those are kind of different players anyways. I think those gaps are bigger than I think there's more depth at defensive end, I guess I should say.
I was actually just kind of going to argue the opposite. I think after you get past these first 4 or 5 defensive ends, I think it falls off pretty significantly. There are some good defensive tackles that you can get a little bit later, like a Ty Robinson from Nebraska. You can get him 3rd round, more than likely. You got the big kid from Tennessee. He's got a little bit of injury history, but
Norman Lott.
Yep, and Deion Walker from Kentucky. For some odd reason, he kind of fell just a little bit this year.
Did you see his athletic testing? Man, moves like molasses. I mean, I get it.
He's also going to be a 1-tech or a 3-tech. He doesn't have to move like a gazelle. Yeah. When you have a guy that's 6'7", 300 and whatever pounds as he is, he's a physical freak to plug up in the middle in there. I think there are some quality defensive tackles that you can get a little bit later, but I think after the top 4 or 5 edges, it falls off significantly.
Yeah. So who is your vote, Randy, for pick at 31?
For pick at 31,
wherever you want.
I like Nick. I like Harmon, but I'm going to go with my boy Jackson.
All right.
Okay. I'll just throw one more guy out there because I know if Kyle was here, he would really want to highlight Xavier Watts, safety out of Notre Dame. He's obviously a really good stud player who can sneak into the first round.
His mind if
and I think justifiably so. If you look at the Chiefs roster, if you have Jaden Hicks and Xavier Watts as your safeties for the next 3-4 years, after Brian Cook potentially leaves he's going to a contract year or so, draft Xavier Watts to be the replacement for him, and you have those two on your back end for the next couple years. That would be a pretty good showing. I mean, that would be pretty nice. I cannot lie. it might be a little crazy. I really like Gray Zabel. I ain't gonna lie, and I know he doesn't necessarily fit exactly what the Chiefs would want in a tackle. But then also you look at left guard, and you're still not 100% certain with how Kingsley's going to work out there or whatever other option they have. And they've invested a lot into the offensive line the past few years, so it'd be tough to draft a guard basically who could play tackle for a year or so if you wanted him to. If you really, I don't even know if Andy would if he would allow that to happen with only 32-inch arms. But Gray Zabel is just the prospect of him being able to play tackle and then maybe go into guard as well. That's really intriguing to me. Realistically, I don't think it ever happens. Realistically, I don't think it ever happens, so I'm not going to vote for it. I'm going to go for Derek Harmon just because I think he's a dog.
Are you sure?
I've
got a randomizer wheel. If there's somebody you want,
I'm gonna lock in Derek Harmon. I think Derek Harmon is the most realistic Chiefs pick, and pairing him with Chris Jones, I think would be I think that would be great. I think that would be an edge rusher or a pass rusher that we haven't seen of that caliber since Chris Jones that you could develop and have him be a really good guy for the foreseeable future. So that's my vote. I'll tell you that much.
All right. Well, then Randy's out. But Randy, this is hard because I'm so I love Landon Jackson.
Landon Jackson would be a great pick too. I would agree with that. We just have so many other edge rushers. I feel like having more of a D tackle type would be.
The edge rushers we do have. Opposite of
you're not great.
And George. Then we have Mike Dannon, who's a serviceable player, and Malik Herring and FAU, who hasn't developed in 2 seasons.
Yeah. Charles Menzies has.
Well, hold on. I think FAU took a small step, but a step.
He took a step, but he's not ready to step in and be the starter by any stretch.
Well, I think we're outvoted. We have to pick somebody.
I like Derek Harmon.
I also think there's a chance that Landon Jackson falls. Right? That was the other part. I think
maybe.
Either. So, but these are the conversations that happen in the draft room, and but there's a lot more people, and they're in suits, and all of them are wearing pants. None of them are without pants and hiding underneath the camera. So we're going Derek Harmon at 31. Much love to Landon Jackson. I would not be mad at that pick at all.
I would not be mad. Yeah.
To be honest.
He went to 42. It looks like. Yeah.
All right, so let's take a look real quick at some of the other names. So
Landon Jackson looks
Gray
like
Zabel went at 34.
34.
Nick went at 35. Azare Thomas, I really like him. I don't know if that makes sense for the Chiefs, but I do really like him overall. Quinshon Judkins is a name that is gaming.
Good running back.
Hey, this is a good ending for Landon. He's from Texarkana, Texas. Which is also where Jerry Jones is from, if I remember correctly. He's going to be a Dallas Cowboy and never be relevant, but he'll probably get paid well. That is a bummer. I don't know. That'd be a tough one.
Yeah.
Xavier Watts, we talked about going. I've gotten to watch a little bit of Alfred Collins lately. Liking what I'm seeing. I need to see a little bit more. Just check some consistency stuff. Caleb Johnson is a guy that I really like who went. Travion Henderson. So we have a run on running backs here.
Mm-hmm. For real.
Also, some edge players are gone. So Princely,
yeah.
JT Tuimoloau, who again
Xavier Restrepo in LA. That's a good pick.
Yeah, I'm not too worried about it. Shamar Turner, the other Texas A&M D defensive lineman, Jared Ivey out of Mississippi. So a lot of guys.
Good linebacker.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
The other Carson from UCLA. So now this is an interesting spot because we are at 63 and 64. I could see the Chiefs moving some of these picks to possibly get some more day 3 capital. But I also see them saying pat because, one, Brett Veach doesn't trade down. And two, this draft class, not necessarily one you want to be accumulating draft picks in.
Right. Yeah.
So,
yep.
Well, early on, I see who I'd like immediately, and I know who I would pick with this 63rd spot.
CJ West at Indiana.
Never heard of him. No, never heard of him.
All right, Jared, go ahead.
He's got one of my favorite players is available right now, which I think would just
one of my favorite players as well. Let me take the lead on this one. Ariante Ursary. I like Ariante Ursary a lot. I would almost be fine. This is kind of a Kingsley situation where I would almost be fine if he was at the end of round one to. I mean, it'd be a little bit of a reach, but I like him a lot. I know I'm not the biggest O-line guy. I'm talking to two big O-line guys right here, but I really liked Ariante Ursari's tape. He's a Kansas City guy, as Tom just highlighted, hometown, which is pretty neat. I think he's played pretty good at Minnesota, considering Minnesota is Minnesota, not necessarily,
Can I get an analysis on his jersey number?
Number
Garrett, you're the
69,
jersey
yeah.
number guy.
That's a good number. Number 69. It's a good number. It's a good tackle
Would you
number.
say
I like him a lot
it's
as he's got the length. He doesn't quite. He's just barely falls shy of the arm length requirement, which seems like basically every single tackle in this draft falls shy of. But I think he's a guy that you could have a lot of good years with. I think he played. I mean, one of my favorite tape from him was watching him against Abdul Carter from Penn State, who's probably going to be a top 5, top 3 guy. And considering he going up against that caliber of a prospect, I mean, that's an NFL prospect right there. That's a guy you will be facing in the NFL. I think he held his own pretty well. And I think if you develop him a little more, obviously our O-line coach, Andy Heck, has fallen a little shy a couple years. It's not great. But, I think the Chiefs hope if they draft a tackle in the first couple rounds, which I think they probably end up doing anyways, I think the hope is that he is a little further along than what Kingsley was, and you potentially draft a guy who just kind of has a little more of a dog mentality in him, that he's ready to come in and take someone's job and something like that, and protect Pat. So for me, if Ariante Ursary was here at 63, or if he was even in the mid 50s, I would trade up for him and take him, in my opinion, because I think he can play really good tackle for you for at least a couple years.
Randy, what do you think? Who's your favorite guy?
One of my most intriguing dudes is Darian Porter.
Oh, okay. All right.
He is a 6'2", 6'3" corner.
Mm-hmm.
I think 6'4" is a little generous. I think he's at 6'3" range, but he ran a sub 4.4. He's tall. He's rangy. He's athletic. He's incredibly fast. He is an outside boundary corner, and I started watching film on him just a few weeks ago, and the more I watch, it's like he's just fast, fluid. He's got great ball skills. He's explosive. He's fast.
You can tell he's fast. He ran a 4.3 at the combine.
4.3,
2.5, and he ran a 4.3.
Yep. So he's one of my favorite prospects in this 63 to 66 range. But I like Ursary as well. He's a big mountain of a body. I think his feet can get a little murky in his pass sets, but he's big enough and strong enough to hold up against some of these good bull rush power guys. I think some of the explosive guys with a lot of bend are going to give him some problems. He did play well against Abdul Carter, which that's his game as well. I just think it's going to take some technique refinement. Maybe get him to drop down from like 330 and maybe lose 10 pounds ish or so.
Yeah.
Just to get a little bit of his foot quickness in there. But he's a really good tackle as well. So this is also, there's a great group of guys around this pick as well. And even Sawyer there, the edge from Ohio State.
He's a dog.
He's
another one experienced
high type dude, and he's experienced. He plays at a great program. He's had a lot of success. I could definitely see, because I think after Sawyer, edge drops off significantly.
Yeah. Yep. And that's where we talk about. So again, we talk about needs and where the Chiefs have positioned themselves. I'm also a big Ursary guy. I'm also a big Porter guy. Randy, I was glad that you brought him up, because I was going to if you didn't. Just an athletic, just freak. And traits, but he also, his last year, and he played special teams. He played everything they asked him to do at Iowa State, and just that rare blend of like elite athleticism, but also with a like true football player mentality.
Yeah.
We talked about Omar Norman Lott, at 31 a little bit, but we did take a defensive tackle, so we probably don't need a double dip.
Not at this point.
Here, knowing we have a quick turnaround, I'm not going to get too far down this list. I think I will give a shout out to Cam Scotabo. Love him as a player. Don't think I would take him in the second round.
super fun player. I mean, he's super fun and super explosive. I think he's going to have a good career wherever he goes. I just don't know if we have to take a running back in the end of round 2, especially with how deep the class is. I feel like it's inevitable to take a guy in day 3 somewhere and make him into a stud.
Scadaboo essentially is Kareem Hunt coming out. Like
right, yeah.
The measurables, the way they play, the contract balance, breaking tackles, being able to catch the ball. Pass pro needs some help. But he's an exciting player, man. And he's got that chip. He's got that attitude. He's fun to watch.
So here is the conversation that we're going to have. I think Porter is an awesome football player, but I think of between cornerback, defensive end, and tackle, I would put corner at the bottom of that list of needs.
Especially after the Fulton signing. Before the Fulton signing, you might have convinced me differently, but yeah.
So Watson's going to be a free agent. Williams is going to be a free agent. Trent's going to be a free agent. So there's 3 out of our top 4 that have 1 year left.
Still probably draft a corner eventually, I'd say. Definitely at least one.
There's some good corners that I like later as well, but nobody on his level.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, Porter, and I would be surprised if Porter fell this way just because the NFL loves guys with traits like his.
Right.
Randy, I think your point proved true. Sawyer's kind of the fall off point. I'm not a big Kyle Kennard guy. I know he met with the Chiefs at the Combine. I'm just looking here.
Elijah Roberts.
It's
not
rough.
Not much after him, man.
Yeah, David Walker. Yeah, it's a big fall off. So your point was proven right. Maybe we would regret that Harmon pick. And then Ursery, kind of the same conversation with Ursery. There's some other offensive linemen that we have. Trapillo's pretty fun, but kind of light. Mbo's
okay.
I think he probably kicks inside at 600 pounds. He's not been playing football for a long time. He's an interesting guy. Interesting story.
It's also the great thing about Ursery. He's a true left tackle. He's played left tackle a long time. That's what I like to see in a prospect. I don't know.
Randy, I know you and I both
I like Milam. I think he is just a dirty in the trenches. He's going to try to mess you up down there. I love his attitude. I love his tenacity.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't know if he's overly athletic to play left tackle. I think in the end he slips inside. I do like Cam Williams.
Yeah. Okay. So I think Milam's probably a guard. So I'm looking at this, and here's my thought. I think if you're asking me who I like the most of these 3 players, it's really tough. I do love Ursery. I actually probably like Sawyer the least of the 3.
Might be a little undersized for what the Chiefs like to do.
Well, I don't think he's a high floor player, right? He's not gonna. You kind of know exactly what you're getting with Jack Sawyer. Porter has the potential to be, I think, a bigger difference maker. The Chiefs have really done their best to make sure, again, this is where they've set themselves up, where they can take the best player on their board, the best player they feel like is at the spot. Now, again, very likely one of these 3 guys is still going to be here at 66.
Exactly. Right. We're still going to have, out of the 3 guys that we're looking at, one of them will still be here in 2 picks.
Yeah. So I'm going to say I would risk losing Ursery because there's other tackles and linemen that I like a little bit more, or that I like as well. Right?
Yeah.
Again, the fall off. So that leaves Porter or Sawyer here.
Between the 2, I would definitely go Porter. I mean, I like Darren Porter a lot too, and he's an athletic freak. And I think
the fall off with Sawyer is huge, but I think you don't get Porter anywhere else.
And I don't know. I might not be as entirely worried about edge rusher as other people are. I mean, obviously we should add some more bodies, but with Mike, like Brandon said, Mike Dana and you still have George and FAU, and you have Charles Menahue and Malik Herring.
Solid rotation of 4 guys.
Yeah, it's not the most ideal rotation, but I mean it's. There's not like an obvious glaring hole that Jack Sawyer's going to come in and fill anyways. He's going to be kind of a multi-year deal. Well,
and we added Derek Harmon, who again gives you some pass rush and some flexibility.
Right,
so I'm saying Porter. Are we in agreement? We're gonna take Porter here and hope
I'm all
one
for
of these
I'm
two
down
is
for
here at
Porter. Yeah,
66.
I'm down for Porter.
All right, we're swinging for the fences, and again, that's where it gets really fun. Oh, what a
That's
heartbreaker!
super history. Yep.
What a heartbreaker! So,
Yeah. So
but you know
honestly,
what? I like that pick. So go
yeah,
ahead.
I don't mind it. Do you look at how does Dylan Sampson look at running back? Are you guys a fan of
He's a
him? I
little
haven't
bit
looked at him.
smaller.
the only thing I don't like about Samson
Mm,
is he's got some fumbleitis.
yeah, I was saying.
As a former running back coach, like
Yeah,
I always told my guys, like, it is better to die a young man than to fumble my football.
I
Because
love that.
it's
Very similar, right?
yeah, I mean, there's no excuse. Like, we can't do anything if we don't have the football. And if you cough it up on a regular basis, and I'm not saying he fumbles every other touch, but I think he's got
Yeah,
almost double digit fumbles in
yeah,
his college career.
mhm,
But he also had a ton of touchdowns in a super productive year last year.
yeah.
So
No, he's so much fun to watch
does
too.
he have ability?
Um,
Absolutely. But hold on to the football, young man.
Yeah, you look like
yep.
you ran a
Oh,
4.42 at his pro day, so that's pretty
Yep.
cool. I mean, that's pretty solid.
yeah. I didn't realize Benjamin Morris was here. Morrison was here. Um, but I want to mention that
MD
Kyle
guy.
will stay alive if we don't.
Yeah.
Morrison would have been a first round pick, but he had this hip injury.
Mhm.
There's a lot of questions about that and speed and those types of things. I would be surprised if he made it to this part of the draft. I think he's an early day two guy. If I had seen him, I probably would have put him in that conversation with Porter.
He's
But I
worried
think
about
I'm
corners.
okay with Porter because the athletic traits.
I worry about corners with hip injuries.
Yeah.
You
Yep.
got to be able to turn, flip your hips, and go at all times. That's not a great thing for me.
Yeah. So Garrett, I'm hearing you really don't like Jack Sawyer.
I just, he's all
Kind of
right.
boring.
I think yeah, he kind of bores me. He's nothing crazy. I don't think he has like any trait that really stands out to him. I think they talked about his leadership and stuff at Ohio State, which was really good. He's like a 4-year
Yeah.
starter there and all that, which is great. And I'm sure there's going to be a team. Honestly, I don't think he even makes it this far. I think there's going to be a team that probably jumps on that idea of him, that like leadership, the 4-year starter type deal. I don't know.
Yeah.
He doesn't really move the needle for me as far as edge rushers go.
Looking at his measurements from the combine, 31 and 3/4 inch arms for an edge rusher is a little. He's got small.
He's super undersized. He's got a good motor to him, which is nice, and he's got a little bit of pass rush to him, but I don't know. I think he's been.
You like the player.
Yeah, I think he'll have a fine NFL career somewhere, but I just don't know if it's going to be with the Chiefs. I really like Dylan Sampson. I don't know if there's other guys Cam Scadaboo is obviously still there as well, which
if we're sitting here right now and I have my choice between Scadaboo and Sampson, I take Scadaboo.
Yeah. And it's hard because Scadaboo offers similar things to what you have, but I'm with Randy on the ball security thing. Especially like we saw Pat struggle early last year with turning some things over. It makes it harder on everybody. I'll just say honestly, if this was my board and I'm sitting at 66, I'm on the phone and probably looking to trade out.
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
I do really like Dylan Sampson in terms of what he offers. I like him more maybe in the late 70s, early 80s than I do at 66.
Mm-hmm.
Same thing with Cam. I think, again, it's like you don't want to wait forever. I'm still stuck with Benjamin Morrison is here. But looking down the list a little bit.
I am a big Terrence Ferguson fan.
Okay, tell me about Terrence Ferguson.
Tight end from Oregon. Just a big, rangy. He looks like a legit prototypical type tight end. And he's got great hands. He's got good length. He's athletic. He's tenacious in the run game. He's not dominant by any stretch. But I think as of right now, also we do have Noah. We do have Wiley. We do have Tanyan. Is he going to see the field this year? Probably
Yeah, I
not.
mean, there's a lot of tight ends that we've
Right.
invested.
So, I mean, so I think tight end right now is not a great pick. I just do like him as a player, but I don't think we go tight end here at all. I don't think we go tight end in this draft. Period.
Yeah, I think Wiley is a big investment for them.
Yep.
Uh, okay, I'm gonna bring him up. Kevin Winston Jr. Not a great grade for his 2024. Um, he partially tore his ACL last year. I think if he, this is a gamble.
I think he's a little light in the shorts too. I mean,
Yeah, 208. I
for-
see him very much as a center field. I see him as what the Chiefs want Brian Cook to be doing in terms of that back half rangy guy.
right.
The difference, like, I don't know. I'm a big fan of his tape from last year. I'll say it that way. This year, the injury, you could tell when it, like, I mean, he only played 2 games, but
Mm-hmm.
it affected things, and obviously cut it short. I just, man, the potential, the potential of the value. Again, I like him a lot. I understand if we don't want to go that way, but I'm a big Winston fan. I also would pound the table for R.J. Harvey.
I've heard a lot of good R.J. Harvey.
I think he's fun,
compliments.
smaller guy, but older guy.
RJ Harvey has a little bit of Priest Holmes in him to me.
Yeah. I'm gonna maybe throw a curveball here. I'm looking to make sure I'm not missing any other names on this list. Do you have any thoughts on Trey Harris?
I was going to say
Randy?
highlight Trey Harris for me.
Okay, you do like Trey Harris?
I do like Trey Harris because
That's where I was going with, but
he's I've been saying this for a couple of years now. It's like I understand Andy likes his wide receivers smaller, shifty, can do a lot of motion, coming across the middle, some gadget plays. I think honestly we have been missing a big-bodied 50-50 jump ball, true X type receiver for a long time. Trey Harris, he could be that type because he's 6'3", 210. I don't know what he ran off the top of my head at the combine, but
looks like he ran a 4.54.
okay, not a blazing speed type guy, but I think he's got great ball control. He's got good hands. He can fight for the ball, but he's a body that we don't have because Rashee Rice is probably our tallest wide receiver right now, right? Him and Juju probably 6'1".
Yeah.
So I wouldn't hate the Trey Harris pick. My guy that I would like to see is if he was available in that 66 range is Higgins from Iowa State. Now, I mean, for me to really like 2 Iowa State guys is rare.
I think Higgins went way early in the second.
Yeah, I'm not an Iowa State fan by any stretch of the imagination, but that type body and ability, I think Higgins is underrated. I think he's got tremendous ability, but I think we need a bigger body.
Yeah. I don't disagree with you on the needing the bigger body part. The guy I was going to bring up, and I don't know if you've had much of a chance to watch because, good Lord, if we can find tape from Utah State.
Jalen Royals. There's a lot of people that have joined the Jalen Royals hype train.
I'm careful with it because there's level of competition. I just think he has. It's like you look for like those unique traits in a player, and he has a spatial awareness about him that is just so much fun and kind of leverages the sideline and
again he's built like almost every other wide receiver we have on our roster. But what I do like about Jalen Royals is that the first time I sat down and I watched his film, I had flashbacks of Puka Nacua in college.
Yeah.
Jalen Royals ran a 4.42 at the combine.
That same type of playmaking ability. He's versatile. He's got about the same build, speed. That's who popped into my mind immediately when I started watching.
Honestly,
So
for my very quick, because I haven't watched as many wide receivers as I'd like to, as the very quick wide receiver watch between Trey Harris and Jalen Royals, Trey Harris does look pretty good. I don't mind Trey Harris. He seems
we
to.
got
I
a
mean,
mega pick.
he's a
I'm
little bit
okay
of a
with
bigger
Trey
guy. That I
What,
mean,
what did Harris have for stats last year? Just out of curiosity.
that's a great question.
Target 76,
60 for 1,000 and
yards, 7 touchdowns, 8 touchdowns, 10 touchdowns, red zone guy.
I'd take that.
Yeah,
You know
so
what?
Trey Harris, I mean, he does seem pretty intriguing. Honestly, watching a little bit of his film quickly, maybe it's because he's wearing number 9, but he kind of reminds me of a little bit of Juju, just in kind of the stuff. I mean, like a prime Juju, like back in the Steelers days. But
Yeah.
Jalen Royals, I'll tell you what, watching a little bit of him real quick, that guy's kind of exciting. He seems a little more exciting, and as far as what.
And I think Jalen Royals probably fits more of what Andy likes out of wide receivers.
Yeah.
Got that 6 foot, 200, 205 pounds.
Yeah.
Kind of line up all over the place, do some gadgety things. He's not as athletic as, say, Xavier or Rasheed or even Hollywood. But like I said, Puka Nacua is what jump, and Puka Nacua has done quite well for himself so far in the NFL in his first 2 years. I was
All
a big
right, Randy.
he was coming out, but if I had to flip a coin right now, and for all the things that I think that we need, I go Trey Harris.
All right, Trey Harris is going to be the pick. We've talked about it a lot. I like it. I'm okay with those guys. I had to give Royals some love because I
like
think
him. I like him.
Randy's spot on to say that's probably more what the Chiefs want or look at. So Royals went, Winston went, my guy Savion Williams went, Dylan Sampson is gone, RJ Harvey is gone, Ozzie Trapilo is gone, Cameron Williams is gone, Ben Morrison is gone. So the board changed a lot for our last pick.
Tackles. I don't mind the WVU. Oh, he already went. I was going to say the WVU tackle that Randy was talking about, but he went at 91. So.
Yeah.
Randy, have you watched any of Embo?
I have watched very little Embo, so I'm not overly familiar or have a whole lot to talk about.
Yeah, he's intriguing. Let's see, when did he start playing football? I think he was one of those guys who didn't start until much later in his life. Let me look here. We're doing background. I think he ends up at guard, for what it's worth.
Mm-hmm.
But I think he could be a really good guard. This is live lookup on the show.
Live.
Obviously, we've talked about needing, like some tackle help, some depth.
I don't really know about Mbow. I don't know if we need more tackle to guard converts. I don't know about him. Now, since we haven't chosen a running back yet, and I know Devin Neal is right there, and we have a lot of Kansas fans here. I know James, our guy James right here, he likes running backs out of Kansas or Kansas State because they have a couple ones. But
Giddens or Neal in this spot would be.
Devin Neal is a very fun runner. I will say he is a very fun runner.
I got love for Devin Neal. I got real love.
I might just say Devin Neal tackle. I mean, Anthony Belton right beneath him. Is he any? What about Anthony Belton? Real quick. Is he at least a tackle?
Chiefs met with him.
He's a big.
Remember what his measurements came in at. The other thing that's weird about this draft class, just so you guys know, if the Chiefs draft a guy, you're like, oh, his arms are short.
33 and 7/8 arms. That sounds like 34 to me. That's basically 34 to me.
Yeah,
6'6",
very slow 40
big guy.
There aren't a ton of tackles with that ungodly wingspan this year. They're all.
Yeah, he has played 3 years.
Often.
3 years straight of playing just left tackle. It seems like so. I don't know. I mean, decent arms, left tackle starter. I don't hate it, but Devin Neal.
Yeah, I think is Giddens still available?
I don't think he is. I could be wrong. I know there's your boy
Deion Walker right there.
Good film, good football player, terrible athlete. I think Giddens went. Let's take. Yep, DJ Giddens went at 84. I honestly prefer. I'll be honest. I love Devin Neal. He's so much fun for me. think he's got good vision, carries his frame well. Love that he's a multi-sport athlete.
That's pretty huge. Yeah.
Versatile. Local kid. Lawrence is just a little bit short drive away.
Yeah.
Lathan Ransom is an interesting pick here too at safety at this point.
Too. Yeah. I think he's a starting caliber player. What do you think, Randy?
I mean, he's that safety that we seem to get in these middle rounds that have been, in the Shamari Connor and the Jaden Hicks type mold. Again, experienced player, great program, had a lot of success. Is that what 6'1", 210-ish, 215? So he's got that safety. I'm not sure, obviously off the top of my head too, without looking up his overall top end speed of exactly how fast and rangy he is, but he's a good football player. But again, at this point in time, like it's we don't need any set position. So do we like a fourth safety in Ransom, or do you take the fourth running back in Devin Neal? Or do you you look at Belton as a tackle prospect now here at this point? Great big bodied guy. I think he needs some refinement in his technique and his pass pro, but he's a big body that can block well. He's probably a better NFL right tackle, more effective in the run game.
Yeah, he can even end up at guard because I just don't know if he has the athleticism to hold up.
Right,
at right
tackle, body size.
Yeah, I like Devin Neal. I mean, I like Devin Neal a lot.
Yeah,
I wouldn't mind. I know tackle might be a little.
I wouldn't hate Devin Neal right now either because we have Pacheco, who I love, but he can't stay healthy, and in reality, he's probably a better running back too. We have Kareem on a 1 year. We have Elijah Mitchell that we just picked up on a 1 year, and we have Carson Steele.
Yeah.
I
think Neal raises the floor the most. I also think he would probably be. I mean, Kareem is good, but I think Neal would be somebody that they could pretty quickly get up to speed and trust in pass protection would be the other piece, which I think is an area that Pacheco has. I'm so high on Pacheco. I know for some reason.
Me too. Yeah, me too.
People have soured on him.
I mean, it's just he's coming off the injury. He came back, but he hasn't. He's missed games every year of his career so far.
Has he? Are we sure? I'm pretty sure he's been good. Sure, I thought for sure he was hurt without he bends and.
Let's see. He played 17 games, 14 games, and then 7 games last year.
Yeah, so he played all games. He missed some games year 2, and then the injury last year. So
yeah, I'm still high on him, but
last year was pretty big. Yeah. I agree. I think you have to hedge your bets. Running backs, we just know they get dinged up, they get hit. I say Devin Neal. Any objections?
I say Devin Neal.
Oh, Devin Neal it is.
Do it.
All right, Devin Neal.
What is Pacheco 2 years on his contract, and then we're out of guys on the roster.
Yeah.
All
So
right,
we're grading our draft. They don't like all of it, but I like it.
They hate it. Yeah, I mean, screw PFF. How great.
Well, there it is. I would be pretty happy with this. I think this gets us some. This adds a lot of athleticism to the team. I think it adds some areas that the Chiefs haven't been able to offer. That second pass rusher next to Chris Jones, an elite athlete at outside corner, a size red zone guy, and Trey Harris. And then I know the combine numbers for Devin Neal weren't great. I know all that, but you watch him; he's got the vision, he's got the instincts. That's a good football player, and I
like him. Yeah.
So I know we've run. We're almost an hour and 20 minutes.
Yeah, we're running a little long. Just a little long.
Yeah, we're a little bit long. It's mock draft season. We're having fun with it. Let us know what you think. Definitely in the comments. I appreciate everybody who's jumped in and said things.
Yeah, definitely been a fun little night here. A little first live in a little bit of time. Going through a little mock draft and all that. It's a good night. It's a good thing. It's a good night. We covered some free agent signings. Got our feet wet in the draft. We've still got a lot more draft content coming your way, obviously. We'll probably do more like position-based things too. We'll kind of break down some of the different positions that we like in their own categories. We'll definitely do more mock drafts because that is a great exercise, especially as the boards continue to change, pro days continue to roll in, and all that stuff.
I'm an addict. I do like 5 to 10 a day.
Exactly. Yeah. There's so many different possibilities. We'll probably look into trading different picks in one of them and whatnot, because there's a decent chance. I mean, there's a pretty solid chance, actually. I don't think the Chiefs pick at many of their picks. That seems to be kind of their theme. Definitely not at 31, I'd say. I mean, if I had to say right now, I don't think they're picking at 31.
There's one of their significant targets sitting there in the middle of round two. I would almost guarantee that 66 or 63 and 66 get paired up to move up. I mean, if there's somebody in that early to mid round 2 that they had graded really, really high that they really, really like, I would bet he pulls a trigger and moves up.
Yeah, as we know, Brett Veach and his whole staff.
Jackson, if we don't take him in the first round.
Exactly. Yeah, we know Brett and his staff are uber aggressive, and they're not afraid to take some risks and to make some big moves. And it seems like teams have still yet to figure out that you shouldn't trade with the Chiefs on draft night, because they'll probably just take a guy that you wanted, and they'll probably beat you in the divisional round once again. So with that, I think that's everything we've got for us tonight. We appreciate you, everyone, for tuning in, everyone who left comments, everyone who joined the live. Be sure to follow us at Kingdom Says Pod on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. We're also over on Blue Sky. We're on a couple other platforms. We'll see how much, we'll see what the future holds as far as social media platforms. That's a fun topic these days. So, but yeah, you can find our content somewhere. I can guarantee it. Also on YouTube. Be sure to check us out over on our YouTube. Kingdom Says over there. Got a lot of cool content getting posted there. We'll probably try to dive a little more into YouTube content with draft stuff coming up here if time allows us, because as I mentioned at the top of the show, it's been a busy year, a busy couple months for everyone at the Kingdom Says. So yeah, we just appreciate you tuning in and being along for this ride and everything like that. We're going to do our best to give you guys some really good up-to-date content and to keep you informed, so when draft night comes around, you are as excited as me that we drafted your favorite player, which for me last year was Xavier Worthy. So we'll see if there's a guy I pound the table for that.
Still waiting on the jersey. Still waiting on that
jersey. Yeah, that's true. That's true.
But it has worked out pretty well. So no, this is, you can stick with us as we work through scheduling stuff. Just make sure you're following us on all the socials that you can. We always appreciate the support. I was thinking about you guys this morning in the shower. And about the podcast. Not you two, but I mean our listeners. I mean our viewers, our supporters. I was thinking about the podcast while I was scrubbing and dubbing, and just to remind, this has been a weird 12 months, I think, for everybody. But even here on the pod, we've all been affected. And I started the year out, and I've said it probably half a dozen times. I'll say it half a dozen more. This year was. Personally had some challenges for me, and these guys were stuck with me and were supportive, and love what we're doing here. Love that we get to do it. We'll do it, on Twitter or X or Facebook or MySpace or Instagram, YouTube. We'll broadcast from the moon if we have to.
We'll smoke signals. I don't care.
Yeah, exactly.
But life comes at us. We're gonna stick with it. We're gonna go through our hurdles. We hope that you guys will continue to support us like you have. Again, like, subscribe, leave rating. You guys hear all the begging, for that stuff all the time. Anyways, I don't want to inundate you with it, but just take a couple minutes to do it. It goes a long way to help us. But more importantly, we're just glad you're here. Yeah. You don't have to do all those things to be here. We've got plans. We're in lots of things moving forward. We'll see how many of those plans go as we plan. Very seldom do they, but we are working on it.
Everybody has a plan until they get punched in the mouth.
We get punched in the mouth a lot around here.
Yeah, the punches just keep coming. But hey, we keep on getting back up. You ain't gonna knock us down for too long. So
exactly. So we're gonna
also shout out Kyle for everything that Kyle does and everything. Yeah, just it's a great time. We're gonna keep doing it. We're gonna keep killing it, and appreciate you all for joining along the ride. So with that, we'll let you get out of here. Have a great rest of the night, everybody, or morning if you're watching this the morning after, or whatever other time of the day it is, because who knows? It's 5 o'clock somewhere, but definitely not here. So with that, that's all we got for you. Thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing and tuning in. And we will see you guys on the next episode